Hello and welcome to Gravitas Plus. I'm Palki Sharma Upadhyay and I'm here to talk to you about a college experiment that has become an everyday fixture of millions of people. A social media platform that is becoming a law unto itself. I'm talking about Facebook. It has existed for 16 years now. It was born in a dorm room at Harvard as a website for poking your college crush. But it has grown into something more addictive than your daily dose of coffee. Facebook is arguably the most powerful engine of communication in the world. It has completely changed the way we consume content, the way we keep in touch, share our lives, make friends. 22% of the global population is on Facebook, and that's without almost all of China. There are 2.7 billion monthly active users, 1.4 billion daily active users, 500,000 new users every day. 6 new profiles every second and 400 new profiles every minute. Facebook operates in 191 countries. It is available in 111 languages. It is the third most visited website in the world, the fourth most downloaded free app on App Store, and the fourth most valuable brand in the world. I could go on, but you get the point. You get how big Facebook is. It is the biggest social media network in the world. And for better or worse, it has forever changed how people socialize, how strangers become friends through just a friend request, how different cultures connect through a few likes, how information flows across communities via some shares, how movements gain strength through Facebook posts, how businesses make money through ads, and how politicians seize power with the right mix of all these options. Which brings us to the question, will Facebook decide the US election result? Is this a big tech election? And can Facebook be regulated for the role it plays in electing governments? Twitter is how politicians talk to people. Facebook is how they win elections. Allow me to explain. In the last decade, several politicians and political campaigners around the world have credited Facebook for helping them take power. Look at the campaign budgets of political parties. Facebook or one of its subsidiaries like Instagram and WhatsApp have become central to election campaigns. But how are politicians using Facebook to their benefit? Let me start with the basics. A lot of people visit Facebook every day. A lot of them are voters. Voters of all kinds, decided and undecided. Voters of all ideologies, religions and ethnicities. So you can call Facebook a ready-made campaigning arena. Politicians talk directly to voters here. They can slip their message or advertisement into your news feed. If the post is liked by one of your friends or relatives, it's a bonus. It's a ready-made endorsement. Now, suppose you're new to Facebook and you see your friends have liked a certain post. You react. You make your political view clear. You may not know, but you are being tracked. Your likes get mapped on Facebook. You begin seeing similar posts, and then you get associated with that particular spectrum and view. And I'm not making this up. Facebook's data policy mentions all of this. Your likes, your shares, pictures, hashtags, even the frequency and duration of your activities, all of it is collected, all of it is analyzed and used to determine what should be fed to you. So is there evidence to show that Facebook can win an election? There is, a whole bag full of it. In the 2010 US midterm elections, researchers analyzed political messages delivered to 61 million Facebook users. 61 million. What did they find? They found that messages influence voters, their political self-expression, information seeking, and real-world voting behavior. 10 years on, the world is much more polarized. One can only imagine Facebook's political influence. Millions of voters are interacting with candidates and parties on Facebook. Political campaigns are spending more on Facebook. In the UK, in 2010, the Conservative Party was spending nothing on Facebook. By 2015, it was spending £1 million. By 2017, more than 18 million. You think that's too much? Look at the US. According to CBS News, political parties have spent more than $1 billion on digital ads this year. And 59% of this money was spent on Facebook. That's $797 million. What's wrong with this? I'll give you 3 things. Number 1, transparency. Up until 2017, the only people who saw political messages sent via Facebook were the sender, the recipient, and Facebook itself. So the candidates could promise anything to anyone without any risk of lying, hypocrisy or distortion. And this made Facebook a playground for mischief. But things seem to have changed a bit now. Facebook has now set up political advertising archives, where you can scroll through thousands of ads sent on behalf of candidates and causes. And this partly resolves the problem of transparency. But here's another problem: money. Most countries strictly regulate election spending, but it gets harder to track if it's being spent online, especially on Facebook. Case in point, Britain. Despite the best of their efforts, investigative journalists were not able to trace the source of funding for one of the biggest Brexit ad campaigns between 2018 and 2019. Then we come to the issue of privacy. I'm sure most of you know about the Cambridge Analytica data scandal. The data of 87 million Facebook users, 87 million people, harvested without consent by Cambridge Analytica. And all of this data was used for targeted political ads. So how did the data of 87 million people get stolen? And all that the founder, the chair, the chief executive officer and controlling shareholder of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, had to say was this:
"We didn't take a broad enough view of our responsibility, and that was a big mistake. And it was my mistake, and I'm sorry. I started Facebook, I run it, and I'm responsible for what happens here."
The Cambridge Analytica scandal changed the world and Facebook. At least that's what Mr. Zuckerberg likes to say. He has invested in election war rooms, introduced rules to prevent foreign interference. He has hired fact checkers, a feature that Facebook is conveniently misusing to act as the arbiter of truth, to brand uncomfortable content as fake. Do you know who these fact checkers are? Third-party individuals and organizations. Facebook itself does not have a role in fact-checking. The job has been outsourced to independent fact-checkers, most of whom are sitting in California and taking decisions that impact billions of people. They rated one of our interviews as fake news. The interview with Chinese virologist Dr. Li Mengyan, who says the Wuhan virus came from a lab. Now, let me say this. WION has reported on every side of this story, and we are among those few networks that questioned Dr. Yan on her claims. The charges against, or the criticism against you is this: that you did not go for a peer review, that your study may have a negative impact on the efforts to fight this pandemic. The University of Hong Kong, where you were doing your research, said that you never conducted any research on human-to-human transmission of the coronavirus, and that your claims have no scientific basis. Why do you think so many scientists from the world over are challenging what you're saying? What did Facebook do? It penalized us without properly looking at our coverage, limited your access to our stories. Are there any consequences for such decisions? Is there any accountability for their judgments? Any punitive action in case of blunders? What about political biases and credibility of these fact checkers? Who is fact checking Facebook's fact checkers? Last we checked, nobody was. Let me say this: a social media platform cannot use censorship in the guise of fighting fake news to decide what's right and what isn't. Facebook is no sovereign entity. Mark Zuckerberg is not a lawmaker. His platform must be answerable to regulators, to governments, to Facebook users, to me and to you. Think about it.
Gravitas Plus, co-presented by Skoda. Simply clever.